powerful lioness moved silently through the vast African savannah, her golden eyes fixed on a herd of antelope grazing in the distance. The dry grass swayed gently in the wind, and the air carried the tension of a hunt about to unfold. Hidden nearby, her tiny cub, only a few months old, watched carefully, learning from its mother's every move. The lioness lowered her body, muscles tightening as she prepared to strike. In one explosive burst, she sprinted forward at full speed. The antelope scattered in panic, hoofs pounding against the earth. She locked onto one target, closing the distance rapidly. Then suddenly, without any warning, the ground beneath her collapsed. In an instant, the powerful predator vanished into the earth. A cloud of dust rose as she crashed into a deep pit, one cruelly dug by poachers. The fall was hard and disorienting. She hit the bottom with a heavy thud, the impact shaking her entire body. Above, the cub ran to the edge and stopped abruptly. It looked down, confused and terrified. Its small body trembled, but instead of running away, it began pacing back and forth. Tiny claws scratched at the dirt as it tried to dig, trying to reach its trapped mother. Down in the pit, the lioness struggled to stand. The walls were steep and made of loose soil. She leaped upward, digging her claws into the dirt, but it crumbled beneath her weight. Again and again she tried, and each time she fell back harder. Minutes passed, and her strength slowly began to fade. Not far away, a wildlife ranger was patrolling the area. He had been tracking signs of illegal poaching activity for days. As he drove across the land, something unusual caught his eye: a small cub moving anxiously in circles. He slowed down immediately. A cub alone like that was never a good sign. Sensing danger, he drove closer and stepped out of his vehicle. The moment he approached, he saw disturbed earth near the cub. His heart began to race. He walked carefully to the edge and looked down. What he saw confirmed his worst fear. A fully grown lioness was trapped at the bottom of a deep pit. She looked up at him with wild, panicked eyes. Her breathing was heavy, and her body was covered in dirt. The ranger knew instantly how dangerous this situation was. A trapped predator is unpredictable, especially one fighting for its life. But what truly shocked him was the cub. Instead of running away from the human, the tiny animal stayed close. It continued scratching at the ground, glancing between the ranger and its mother, as if begging for help. Before the ranger could even think of a plan, the sky darkened. Within moments, heavy rain began to fall. First, it seemed like just another storm. But then the ranger realized something terrifying. The pit was located at a low point in the land. Water began rushing toward it from all sides. Within seconds, the bottom of the pit started filling with muddy water. The lioness felt it immediately. The ground beneath her turned soft and slippery. She tried to jump again, but now the mud pulled her down. The water climbed higher, past her legs, then her chest. She thrashed desperately, trying to stay above the rising level. The ranger watched in horror as the situation turned critical. There was no time left. He ran back to his vehicle, slipping in the mud, and grabbed a heavy-duty rope. His hands moved quickly despite the pressure. He tied a large loop at one end and rushed back to the pit. Kneeling at the edge, he lowered the rope down carefully. The lioness was now barely keeping her head above the water. Her breathing was rapid, and her movements were slowing. The ranger positioned the loop in front of her, trying to guide her. At first, she reacted with fear. She pulled away, splashing violently, unsure whether this was another threat. The ranger held steady. Rain poured over him as he leaned forward, risking his own safety. Beside him, the cub stood close, soaked, shivering but determined. It looked at the rope, then at its mother, then back at the ranger. It was a silent plea. And then something incredible happened. The lioness stopped thrashing. Through the rain and panic, she looked up at the ranger. For a brief moment, everything seemed still. Instinct battled with survival. Then she made a choice. Slowly, she reached up and hooked her powerful front legs into the rope. She didn't bite it. She wrapped herself around it, holding tight. The ranger felt the sudden weight pull down hard. Without hesitation, he braced himself and began to pull. The effort was overwhelming. Every muscle in his body strained under the weight of the waterlogged animal. His boots dug into the muddy ground as he leaned back, pulling inch by inch. The rope cut into his hands, but he didn't stop. Below, the lioness pushed with her back legs, helping herself upward. Mud slid beneath her, but she kept trying. It was a struggle of pure survival, human and animal working together. Slowly, she began to rise. Inches turned into feet. The ranger gave everything he had left. With one final, powerful pull, the lioness reached the edge. She collapsed onto the ground, soaked and exhausted. The ranger quickly let go of the rope and stepped back, breathing heavily. His heart pounded as he prepared for the worst. This was the most dangerous moment. The lioness was free now. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the cub rushed forward and pressed against its mother. The lioness remained still, catching her breath. Her chest rose and fell as she regained strength. Slowly, she lifted her head and looked at the ranger. Their eyes met. There was no anger, no attack, only a deep, silent understanding. After a moment, she stood up. Water dripped from her fur as she steadied herself. She gently nudged her cub, guiding it forward. Together, they began walking away. Just before disappearing into the tall grass, the lioness paused. She turned her head one last time, looking back at the man who had saved her life. Then she vanished into the wild. The ranger stood alone in the rain, his arms shaking from exhaustion. What he had just experienced was beyond words. A wild animal had trusted him. A tiny cub had asked for help without fear. And in that moment, the line between human and animal had disappeared. Sometimes, even in the harshest world, compassion speaks louder than instinct, and trust can exist where we least expect it.